Hello there, welcome to my review of the Rockford Files Season 3, Episode 4, Feeding Frenzy, written by Lester William Burke and directed by Russ Mabry. The episode begins with Jim on another redate, this time with Sandy Baylock, played by our Colombo connection, Susan Howard, who played Dean Stockwell's wife in The Most Crucial Game.
We have been listening to this for nearly 3 hours.
As well as being reacquainted, Sandy also tells Jim her dad is in trouble, but says no more. They're being watched by a couple of goons, one of whom is our second Colombo connection, Carmine Argenziano, who played the coroner in Identity Crisis.
He was hit twice with a blunt instrument.
The next day, Jim meets with Sandy's dad and old friend Charlie, who tells Jim that years earlier he stole $500,000 and was never caught, and now the statute of limitations is expiring and he wants to return the money. Or more specifically, he wants Jim to return the money.
If I do it, the police will know I stole it. It'll be in all the papers.
I guess it wouldn't hurt my reputation any.
He's a recovering alcoholic who took the money while wasted, but has been clean for the last 3 years and wants a clean slate. We then see someone different has been watching them, and this stranger makes a call to another man about making a big score. We then see one of the first goons attacked by a debt collector before Jim goes to visit the company Charlie stole the money from, and we're greeted by another Colombo connection and returning Rockford actor George Weiner.
This money is from...
Correct on all the above.
But...
This is a relatively complicated and unusual setup that is helped along by simple dialogue and some excellent performances, particularly Weiner's baffled company exec. We know what Jim is expected to do and why, but also that a lot of other people know about this money and all want a piece of it. This means we have an element of surprise, as well as knowing that something is going to go wrong. And it does, as soon as Jim goes back to Charlie's, as Sandy is being kidnapped by several masked goons. Jim wants Charlie to go to the cops, but he wants to pay the ransom, and it isn't long before the kidnappers call. And it turns out to be the goons of the Loan Shark. Jim handles the situation masterfully and really dominates the kidnappers.
I'm the guy you're going to have to negotiate this transaction with.
Much to the distress of Charlie.
Oh, they'll kill her, Jim!
And the confusion of the kidnappers.
What's with you anyway? Will you quit hanging the damn phone up?
But our amusement. Rockford arranges the exchange to take place at an ice rink, on the ice, so no one can make any sudden moves. And the exchange goes off without a hitch, despite the rink not looking in the best shape. But it is hot in LA, I guess. It's a lot of fun watching this supposedly tense scene play out, with them all gingerly crossing the ice, accompanied by Wurlitzer music. Turns out even James Garner can't look too macho crossing an ice rink without skates on. With Charlie and Sandy safely dropped off at a motel, Jim makes his way back to his trailer. Unfortunately, one of the men we saw on the phone earlier is watching the motel, and the cops are waiting to arrest Jim.
You're under arrest, section 315 of the Penal Code.
And I just what would that cover?
At the station, he finds out he's being busted for the theft of the money, and the lieutenant in charge of the case is the other man from the earlier phone call.
You Jim Rockford?
He reveals that the statute of limitations are for 3 years for theft, but Rockford got the dates wrong. Charlie started the clock from when he committed the crime, but the cops started it from when the crime was reported. Lieutenant Hall isn't impressed by any of Rockford's sass, but he's working with an accomplice who he orders to kidnap Sandy.
Okay, take it down.
Right.
For the second time that day. Beth gets Jim sprung and he borrows her Porsche to get back to Charlie, who has fallen off the wagon. Jim gives him some tough love and has to quickly formulate a plan to get Sandy back with no money and with other lowlives circling.
Oh! Ow!
Out you go. Oh, really? Come on.
Now the statute of limitations has expired. This gives us the feeding frenzy of the title. One of these minor criminals is caught by Jim and gives up the name of the initial goons. Dennis reveals one of those goons is dead and gave up Charlie to his loan shark. And incidentally, Lieutenant Hall works out of a different police station. Rockford manages to put the pieces together and figures Hall for a crooked cop, which Dennis refuses to believe but still looks into, which Jim knew he would. Hall appears clean, as the cop originally on the case is dead, but that cop's partner Northcutt is the goon who kidnapped Sandy the second time. The way I'm describing all this may sound complicated, but within the context of the episode, it's all made very easy to follow, and the clues flow naturally into each other in what is a well-plotted episode. As Dennis and Jim stake out Northcote, we see him go off with Hall, who they follow to a shack, where Jim reveals he knows Dennis better than Dennis would like.
Give me a backup piece. I don't carry a backup piece. Sure you do. Strap your shin.
They catch Hall and Northcutt trying to move Sandy and rescue her. In the epilogue, we find out Charlie is a broken man who has got dry again, but is a shadow of his former self. This only gets worse when he discovers he owes tax on the $500,000 he stole, and which he no longer has, which might just push him over the edge. This is another different but odd episode in the annals of the Rockford Files, as it starts like quite a jaunty episode, even if Charlie is somewhat of a pitiable character, played beautifully by Eddie Firestone. It might be considered a morality lesson and an example of karma, showing that crime never prospers, but even though Charlie commits a crime, he never actually benefited from it. He starts as a washed-out alcoholic who steals because he's drunk, then reforms his life because of the guilt, only to be rewarded for getting clean by having his daughter kidnapped twice, losing the money he was planning on returning, then getting caught by the taxman.
I'm Agent Thomas Raval with the Internal Revenue Service.
If he was a more unlikable character from the off, or if it had been played more comically, then we might enjoy his downfall. But as it is, the lesson seems to be that he should have kept quiet about the money and just spent it fleeing the country, or at the very least enjoying himself. Had this been about the shenanigans of an Angel-type character, it might have been more entertaining. But as it is, it's just sad watching a pathetic man be beaten by life. It does offer an interesting contrast to Rockford, who went to jail without committing a crime, has not made a success of himself, but has also not suffered because of it. But beyond that, there isn't much else here, beyond a few fun scenes. The juxtaposition doesn't work for me, but the performances and the pacing of the episode are something to be praised, as there's never a dull moment, and Rockford's investigating comes off as very authentic. I feel it lacks proper character development for Charlie, and Sandy is largely wasted as a character whose only purpose is to be kidnapped. So for me, this is a disappointing 3 out of 5. Thank you. Goodbye.